In the beginning, there was darkness. Then, out of the void came fire, smoke, metal. On the forge of imagination, an incredible thing began to take shape. A creature of raw, unbridled power. A creature with no equal. The very first of its kind. A thing so awesome, it could only be called a monster. In the beginning, there was Bigfoot. The first monster truck to stalk the earth. No town too small, no city too large. Bigfoot roamed the land in search of action, excitement, and conquest. Today, monsters are everywhere. Monsters are real. But when the dust settles and the smoke clears, a cry is still heard across the land. Bigfoot, king of the monster trucks.
Bigfoot Challenge of the Monster Trucks is sponsored by True Value Hardware. For quality, selection, and personal attention, make True Value your store of first choice. And by CarQuest Auto Parts stores. You'll find it at CarQuest.
Over the past few years, we've all been witness to a rare occurrence, the birth and then the thriving success of a new form of motorsports entertainment, monster truck competition. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Lee in the cab of what we could argue to be the most recognizable and certainly the largest monster truck in the world, Bigfoot. Now, this beauty is Bigfoot number 5. It's the largest of the Bigfoot family of monster trucks. It is on display outside the birthplace and the developmental center on the cutting edge of monster truck design, performance, and manufacture. We're at the Midwest Four-Wheel Drive and Performance Center in St. Louis, owned and operated by Bob and Marilyn Chandler. Now, I've always had this secret desire to drive Bigfoot, but they take no chances here in St. Louis. There's no key in the ignition. For the next hour, we'll take an exciting look at the king of the monster trucks. We'll see how these trucks are designed, manufactured, modified, and maneuvered. Maybe they could teach me how to drive Bigfoot. We'll talk to the men and women that keep these trucks in the forefront of this phenomenon that's sweeping the nation. Now, as I mentioned before, this is Bigfoot number 5. There are 10 Bigfoot vehicles, all designed and constructed for ultimate performance in a specific event. Now, before we get started, and to give me a chance to figure out how to get down from here, let's take a look at the champions in the Bigfoot stable. After all, it takes some kind of program to put the faces with the names. We're now in the shop area of Bigfoot 4x4 with Bob Chandler, the owner and creator of Bigfoot. Bob, I think the popularity of monster trucks right now coincides with the general popularity of four-wheel drive vehicles, particularly the pickup trucks. And everyone watching us right now with a four-wheel vehicle would love to do what you do with Bigfoot. But let's talk about, if you will, the general differences between, say, a stock Ford pickup truck and the monster truck.
Well, we started out with, years ago, with Bigfoot 1, 2, and 3. That was our first series of trucks. And they were basically a stock Ford frame, basically a stock body. We used a 460 engine with a supercharger on it. We used a C6 automatic transmission that we beefed up a little bit. We have progressed to this truck here, which is Bigfoot 4, and we've put a straight rail frame, which is much stronger. We've tried to lighten the body up, lighten the components up. We've got a bigger engine in it, better suspension, and it's progressing every year.
Can you give us a tour? You be the tour guide and walk us around this monster truck.
Okay, this is one of our first racing trucks, let's say. And what we started out here was with a different type of frame. It's a straight rail frame. It's a stronger. This truck has more air time. It's up in the air more than the other vehicles. So what we've done is added a longer spring to it, so we have more travel out of it, which involves longer shocks. The more suspension travel you have, the better the truck will handle. We started out with a basic 5-ton military housing, and what we've put on it is a planetary. This is a gear ratio right here at the tire. It relieves all the components behind that, so instead of breaking axles, it'll break parts in the locker, which it rarely does. Then we've gone to start out with a basic 460 engine again, but we've beefed this one up quite a bit. It's over 500 cubic inch. We've gone to a bigger BDS blower on it. We've got 3 Predator carburetors. The other ones only had 2. So this truck puts out a lot more horsepower, and it performs a lot better than the old trucks.
One question that I have been asked several times at these events, what does 4x4x4 mean?
Well, 4x4x4, a 4x4 rather, is a four-wheel drive truck. There's 4 tires on the ground, 4 tires supposedly pull. The extra 4 that we've added is four-wheel steering. Our truck does not only turn from the front, but it also turns in the rear, so it's a 4x4x4.
Now, was this a creation one night, Bob Chandler can't go to sleep, and the wheels are turning, and this idea pops out?
No, I was at a Gravel-Rama years ago with my first truck, and a Rockwell engineer came up to me and he started telling me about the components, the Rockwell parts under this thing. And we sat underneath this truck for at least an hour and a half, and he was explaining to me how the military wanted these things built. The front and rear, they're basically the same sizes. What they wanted to do is if somebody broke one of their deuce-and-a-half trucks or 5-ton trucks, they could take a front component, the front axle out of one truck, and stick it in the rear, lock it straight, and go back down the road. And that kept bugging me all the way home from this Gravel-Rama show. And then when I got home, I said, I got to try that, but I'm going to put steering on the rear. And it took us one day to try this out. And we went out on the street, and we were laughing so hard we had tears in our eyes because it's such a weird feeling to go sideways.
So the rear steering, the hydraulic steering, is something of your design. You didn't copy it from another vehicle.
No, that is something that we did ourselves. It's been changed probably 4 or 5 times from the beginning, but it is our design, yes.
Now, for all of us that have seen the drivers maneuver Bigfoot in person, we see the left arm outside the cab because the toggle switch for rear steering is just inside the window. But it wasn't always there, was it?
No, I used to have it on the floor. I had 2 buttons that I operated with my left foot. And at that time, I was still street driving the vehicle. Normally, I would lock the rear steering with a pin in the tie rod. Well, I didn't have it locked this time, and I'm going down the road about 40, 50 miles an hour, and my foot sat on that button. And all of a sudden, I was going sideways down the road. I run somebody off the road. Luckily, nobody was hurt. But from that point on, we went to the steering on the column.
Well, Bob, some of the modifications to Bigfoot are not visible. Take this sound here. That's not sheet metal. That's fiberglass.
Yeah, we started with some fiberglass components on Bigfoot 4. We've got a bed and a door right now. We've got some of the trucks have fiberglass hoods and front ends. We're working on a mold for the fiberglass cab right now. The fiberglass is not necessarily a weight-saving factor for us. It's more a durability factor. You take a metal body, when these big tires hit them, it buckles the whole body. You destroy the whole side of the bed or whatever. Fiberglass is a lot more durable.
You have been the innovator. Now, do you share your secrets? If someone is starting to build their own monster truck, do you have a set of plans they might acquire, or will you answer questions as to how something should be done?
I usually answer any questions they want to ask. I've talked to people all over the world, from Saudi Arabia to Australia to Japan to Germany to England, and a lot of people in the United States. I like the competitive edge. I like having a lot of other trucks around. It helps my business also, so I will share with anybody, yes.
But once you do something new, you can't put a tarp over it. You go out for the first competition, everybody sees it.
Yeah, that's the thing. We do a lot of new things. We try a lot of new things, innovations, and we try to hide them for a while we're proving them to see if they work. You know, we don't go out and test a vehicle on a track. We go out and test it on our own somewhere, and then it goes out in front of the public if it works. And then if it's good, it gets copied.
All right, stay with us. When we return, we'll take a look at Bigfoot 5, the biggest monster truck in the world.
Monster Truck fans, this is the video you've been waiting for.
This is Bigfoot, king of the monster truck.
60 minutes of non-stop monster truck action that will blow you away.
It's all new.
Brand new.
You'll see it all from car-crushing heroics to dangerous monster truck rollovers.
Heart-pounding wheel stands.
Monster truck drag racing.
Hill climb.
Music videos and Bigfoot deep in the mud.
Witness the first car crush ever and ride in the cab with Bigfoot as he pours on the power, plus much, much more.
Nothing stops this giant muscle machine as he flies through the air.
Jumping cars and smashing everything in his way.
This is the video that everyone's talking about.
This is the ultimate in monster truck excitement.
This is Bigfoot, king of the monster truck.
This offer not available in stores, so order yours today. Have your charge card ready and call now 1-800-445-1448 to get your copy of Bigfoot, king of the monster trucks for $24.95 plus shipping and handling. Call now and get a Bigfoot cap free with every paid order. This offer not available in stores, so call now 1-800-445-1448. It's incredible.
As I mentioned before, this monster is Bigfoot number 5, the largest monster truck in the world. But what I didn't mention was it will always be the largest monster truck for one simple reason. These tires, over 10 feet tall, they weigh over 1 ton apiece. They're unique and irreplaceable. And like everything else to do with Bigfoot, these tires have quite a history.
Well, currently on Bigfoot 5, we run tires that came from an Alaskan land train, something that the U.S. Army had in late 1950s, I believe. I was doing a show in Seattle about 5 years ago, and I went to a military junkyard between two shows. And Ken Kelling, one of my drivers, saw these tires on a trailer, and he come over and got me out of a different part of this yard, and I couldn't believe that there was such a tire this way, you know, this big of a tire. We looked at them for quite a while, trying to figure out how we could use them, and we ended up going to the owner of the yard and to see what he'd want for the tires, and he told me $30,000. I says, no, thank you. The next year I was back there again doing a show, so I went back in and asked the guy how much he wanted for his tires. It's the same thing, $30,000, so I just kind of give up on him. The following year I had Jim Kramer go up and do the show in Seattle, so I was talking to him on the phone one of the days that he was up there, and I suggested he go in there and offer the guy $1,000 just to see what he'd say. He called me back in an hour, and he says, the guy says, fine. So what happened, we ended up buying 4 tires. I don't know what changed this guy's mind in this last year, but we bought the 4 tires and ended up buying 4 more from him 6 months later for $700 apiece. So I think I've got the only 8 with wheels in the country. In the back of my mind, I did want to prove that I had the biggest truck. I've never tried to, with my trucks, I've never claimed to be the biggest or the tallest or the widest or anything else. But the first time we put these tires on the truck, it was really for some pictures, and we were going to take them off and never use them again. But we decided to put them on a truck for the four-wheel and off-road jamboree one year, and it really worked out neat because there was at least 5 other monster trucks with signs in front of their vehicles, world's largest monster truck. And I just had to drive past these guys and look down on their vehicles. You know, it was all in fun. But, the truck's been pretty popular. I really can't take the tires off. I leave them mounted all the time out in front of the shop when a truck's not being used. Bigfoot 5, its main thing is to be on display at all times. We have busloads of school kids come in, and they look at the truck. They go through the shop. It brings a lot of people in, brings a lot of truck drivers that are, you know, they take their kids with them as they're going through St. Louis, and they stop here. It's been good for our shop, and it's been good for Bigfoot.
Now let's talk about that tire walk. Was this your brainchild, or did somebody suggest this?
Oh, years back in Casper, Wyoming, I was doing a show with Bigfoot number 4, I believe, with 5-foot tires. And I was looking for something to kind of add to my stadium show, to kind of keep the crowd interested. And I started tire walking on the 5-foot tires, which is not a big problem. You know, they're much smaller. And I was at the Seattle Kingdom, and I figured, no, if it works with the small truck, why doesn't it work for the big truck? I had another guy drive the truck and watch what I was doing. We practiced this before the show, of course. And you can do it, and I do it, but it's very difficult because the tire being 10 foot tall, you actually are kind of hung out in the wind there for a while before you come over, and your gravity starts holding you to the tire as you come out. So you have to grab the tire with your arms and your legs and squeeze with all your might until you come over the breakover point, and gravity takes over and holds you to the tire and come up.
I must admit, the first time I saw it on videotape, I thought, well, that doesn't look that scary. Until I had actually gotten in the truck and realized how far up in the air I was. Then it became very scary.
It is. The biggest problem to figure out is once I leave the truck to jump on the ground to come back up, I had to figure out a way I could physically leave the truck without getting in the way of the rotating tires, climb down along the chassis, get on the ground, then grab the tire and come back up. It's a long way. You don't just step out the door and jump, that's for sure.
Bigfoot number 5 is certainly the most impressive in terms of overall size, but what about the pure power and the fast-paced action delivered by the other members of the Bigfoot family? When we return, we'll take a gut-wrenching, bone-crushing look at the competitive side of Bigfoot, king of the monster trucks. Up until a few years ago, monster trucks were considered exhibition vehicles reserved for intermission-type events, but no longer. Monster truck racing is a highly competitive motorsport, and by the very nature of that motorsport, monster truck racing is unpredictable and always changing. How long did it take you to get acclimated to, like, the hydraulic rear steering and to get acclimated to driving the truck in the race?
It takes a lot of time. You can master these things at a slow speed very easily. I could take you, for instance, out in the field, and in 2 hours' time, I could have you turning circles and doing just about what you want at a relatively low speed. To be able to do this and keep a truck in control in a race situation is a whole different story. There's so much weight moving around at speed and everything, you just can't touch that rear steering and utilize it like you think you could. You have to be very careful when you use it because it couldn't effectively just kind of flip your truck over before you know it. So it takes a while, it takes a lot of practice, a lot of seat time. If you have to think about an action you're about to undertake in a truck, all right, then you don't belong in the truck. It has to become very second nature to you. It has to become just a seat-of-the-pants type situation. Sure, you're going to feel the steering in the front, but there's going to be little indicators that tell you what that back end is doing. I, for instance, use my 3 carburetors as kind of a weather vane. I know if my back end is to the right My carburetors sit to the right. If I'm too far to the left, they sit to the left. I can almost just quickly glance at my carburation and tell when my back end is straight or not.
You have made every monster truck highlight, video, and film. And not just for winning all the time, but you've had a couple of crashes where you've been upside down, on your nose, and it seems like those are always the ones we see. Let's go back to the one you had at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis where you put the truck first on the nose and then on over. Your thoughts? You had to have enough time to think about what was happening.
It happened real fast, but it's like everything else. People tell you when things happen, you know, their life flashed before them. I thought of a lot of things, and I was thinking, how do I get this predicament? How do I get myself out? I couldn't get myself out because of a mechanical situation, so I had to think of the safety of the fans. Had not the truck rolled over, then I would have had jabbed on the brakes to make the truck roll over, so it would not have gotten as far as the seating area where the fans were. So that's the kind of thing that was going through your mind. After it was over, of course, and I was out and had time to reflect on it, you know, it's a lot of things do go through your mind. What could have happened? Because of the safety equipment that we use on the trucks, I came out okay.
How much of a jarring does the human body take in car crashes or in the races themselves? Despite the safety aspects of the truck, how much are the organs moving around inside the human body?
If it weren't for the safety equipment we use, it'd be a lot worse. But yes, everything gets jarred. The biggest problem, I think, is neck whiplash. You hitting these cars, some of them 40 to 50 miles an hour, there's such an impact at that point that it's very easy to get a neck whiplash, and we wear proper safety equipment, cervical collars that help support helmets and things like that to try to alleviate the problem.
Where do you see monster trucks headed?
As you know, like you stated, monster trucks started out at exhibition, but now monster trucks have gained popularity in their own right. I think we're seeing now, last summer, I think we'll see this summer too, monster truck racing shows, period. You're talking about just monster trucks. They are enough of a draw, enough of interest to people that they will support themselves. You're going to see a much better breed of monster truck out there running, and you're going to see a much better track, much more controlled, better guidelines, better track timing devices and things like that. It's going to get to be a heck of a lot better race situation with the monster trucks.
Just as any athlete or artist would have their own particular style, so it is with monster truck drivers. So we spent some time talking with the different Bigfoot drivers about their style and asked them what techniques they've picked up over the years to give them that slight edge.
It's hard to tell anybody what you're thinking about when you're sitting on a line because you're thinking of so much stuff. You know, a lot of times I try to pull up the line and really make sure I'm really ready to go. And sometimes depending on who I'm racing, you know, I like to psych them out a little bit, you know, take a little time, stall, you know, and because just our name will psych a lot of the guys out. A lot of the guys, they know they're racing Bigfoot, and it's rough on them. So it just makes them real nervous. So if you can kind of play with them a little bit, you know, they'll usually psych up and psych out and mess up. But I sit up on the line, you know, once I'm starting to really concentrate now on is the light. Really trying to play the light real close because it's the light in a lot of the races in these straight courses, the bonsai runs, the light is a big factor. You know, if you can jump the light and play the light real good, you get a good start. Here lately, the races have all been real close. We're all running within a half a second or within 31/100ths of a second of each other. And, you know, a lot of it depends on who can get off the line first.
Before the show, you're thinking about the course, how you're going to try it. You watch the other trucks if they're qualifying before you. And you try to figure out what you're going to do. And usually by the time you get you're all suited up and strapped in and stuff, your mind's no longer on anything except for when they start you. And then what goes through your mind from then on, I couldn't really tell you because it goes so fast. Believe it or not, that's the first time I've ever crushed cars with 48. I felt secure in the truck. I felt more secure in the little truck than I did in the big truck. I don't know why. Just because everything was smaller and fit me closer or what. But we figured out how they was jumping the trucks to get them out so far. when we figured it out, it was too late to jump the big truck, or to do it with the big truck, and the only one we had left to do was the 48. And me and George talked, and I said, well, let's try it. And when we did, and it was unreal. It worked. You know. I felt very comfortable with it when we laid down. And until I got back, and you know, everybody said, "Oh, you know, we thought you was gone." And I thought everything laid down real well.
Besides the full-size monster trucks, Bob and Marilyn Chandler have two hybrid monsters, the Bigfoot Shuttle and the Bigfoot Ranger. When we come back, we'll take a look at the modifications to these vehicles and also what it's like to drive them. The Bigfoot Shuttle has raised more than just a few eyebrows over the years, especially when it goes through the paces like any other monster vehicle. But unlike its larger cousins, the Bigfoot Shuttle is surprisingly stock. Let's take a quick look at why Bob Chandler developed the Bigfoot Shuttle and what type of modifications he made to the vehicle.
The Bigfoot Shuttle started out as we started with the stock Ford brown colors. We built a subframe, put 2.5-ton running gear, 48-inch tires, and we run a stock engine, a stock transmission. We run nitrous oxide on the engine. It's a 3-liter fuel-injected Ford engine. I've raced against the bigger trucks before and almost won. It's very maneuverable. I guess that's where its advantage is, being 48-inch tire. It turns sharper than a big truck, so it's hard to beat. Bigfoot Ranger actually started out as a streetable Bigfoot. That was our idea, and my wife was involved in it. That's why it was originally called Ms. Bigfoot. And as the project started, I had a long talk with Alan Root, who makes these aluminum Ford engines, and we decided to put an aluminum 571 cubic inch BDS supercharged Ford engine in it. It went from a streetable machine to a super hot rod Bigfoot. I guess about 2 years ago, Ford came to us and they wanted us to paint it the same color as the other trucks. And when we did change it to the Bigfoot Blue, we also changed the name to the Bigfoot Ranger.
Well, Bob, besides the competition, Bigfoot shows up in some surprising places like cameo roles in the movies, some television commercials. And Bob, tell us about some of those pleasant experiences.
In 1988, we did another Ford commercial, which was a very exciting thing to do. We also had a role in Roadhouse. And the end of last year, we finished up a part on Police Academy 6.
Now, everything is very well planned. Despite how it may look on the big screen, you guys go through a lot of planning preparation for any type of a stunt. Let's talk about the preparations for the movie Roadhouse.
Well, what they did is they told us they wanted us to drive to a building. It was a dealership. And to set up 4 brand new cars in there. So what I did is put it in a computer with a CAD program, and everything was to scale, and I could watch the truck going through the building. We told them we needed this much ceiling height, so we didn't hit the ceiling with the truck. We needed them spaced, so and I had it laid out on a computer printout, and they stuck it up on the wall, and that's the way they laid everything out for the show, and it went over good.
Obviously, those of us watching in the theater would have no idea how much preparation and paperwork would go into such a stunt.
There was a lot. I probably spent 2 weeks in the computer every night working on this. It came out excellent, though. They had 7 cameras going for this one shoot, and just luckily it went over right. It had only 1 building and 4 cars, so there was no second take on this.
Well, now, Jim drove that stunt, but you've done some stunt driving on your own. Let's talk about forging the river.
We did a part with, I was playing Ben Gazzar, and I had a big old cigar in my mouth, which I hated. And we had to go across a river in Northern California for this one scene. And we kept trying a little deeper place, and I hit a hole. The truck almost disappeared. It went down into water, and tires were completely under. The old trucks would float. My Bigfoot 1, 2, and 3 would float, but the newer trucks, they wouldn't handle that. And it just barely grabbed enough to come out of the hole, and it was a neat scene.
Did you tell the producer this is going to cost you more money?
No, I said, that's it. I'm done. That's as far as we can go in the water.
When we come back, we'll take a look at a new direction the Bigfoot family is headed, into the competitive arena of monster tanks. We all know what a tank is. Those lumbering, armor-plated vehicles that have always represented power, mobility, and strength. And, until recently, they've always served duty in the armed forces. Now, they're serving different masters. Monster Tanks, the newest vehicle in a motorsport that is always looking for a new and surprising way to thrill the audience. And Bob Chandler, I have to say I'm a bit surprised, knowing that you never liked tanks. When my one son said, "Daddy has a tank," I said, "No, you're crazy. That may be a blue tank, but it's not a Bigfoot family member." But I was wrong.
No, I really don't like the vehicles. I like pickup trucks. I always have. But this was an exception. I saw this vehicle. It was put together at one time by somebody else, and I fell in love with it. It was neat.
Now, you're quick to say that this was not a tank. This was a personnel carrier.
It's an M84 personnel carrier. I think the vintage is a 1959, but it is not a tank.
And it's powered now by?
By two Fords. It was powered by two Chevrolet engines. But my way of getting around this is it is not a tank. It is a personnel carrier.
There have been a number of modifications to this because originally this unit was, what, about 12 feet wide?
12 feet wide, and it weighed 42,000 pounds. And now it's narrowed down to 8'2", and it's probably a little under 24,000 pounds, 12 tons.
And we have twin 460 Ford engines?
Supercharged 460 engines, and yes.
And you've not dynoed them, but what, maybe 650 horsepower per?
Somewhere in that range, yes.
Now, I happen to know that you have pretty well curtailed your driving. But you like to drive this. You have fun with this.
Tell you what, it is a ball. It's got a nice suspension on it. It's easier riding than any of my big trucks, and I do enjoy it.
Bob, the Bigfoot truck has always been at the top of the heap, but it didn't take long for the Fast Track's tank to ascend to the top. On one particular night that I'm thinking of, the tank won its division, Bigfoot 7 won its division, and the two of you went off head-to-head.
That was a neat night. There was good competition there. Jim Kramer was driving a truck. I was driving a track vehicle. And to end up with two of my own vehicles racing for the top prize or the top award for that night, that was a very exciting run. I had a lot of different thoughts about it. I want the truck to win, but just to both have this vehicle after such a short time you know, racing one of the other trucks. It was neat. It was a neat event.
Well, Bob, as I said in the beginning, monsters are real, and we have no idea where monster truck competition is headed, but I think it's safe to say, wherever that might be, that they and the fans will let nothing get in the way.
You're right, Gary. And we're not going to let anything get in the way of you driving Bigfoot either, so here's your helmet.
All right, thank you. I've been looking forward to this.
Gary, and here's your Bigfoot to drive.
A promotional fee has been paid by
Pour in the quantum. Pour on the power. Quantum. Technology in a can. From Gold Eagle.
I got my Matchbox supercharger automobile. It drives over anything with jumbo wheels. With Matchbox superchargers, you can go far. Matchbox, the automotive avatar.
It's the monster truck invasion of America. See Bigfoot, Tourist, USA 1, Rolling Thunder, and many more in the most awesome display of raw power ever. Ask for War of the Monster Trucks, now on home video. Bigfoot Challenge of the Monster Trucks has been sponsored by True Value Hardware. For quality, selection, and personal attention, make True Value your store of first choice, and by CarQuest Auto Parts stores. You'll find it at CarQuest.